India Global.
India Global.
Hello and welcome. Join us as we travel to a country in Asia, landlocked between Russia and China, but which considers India its third neighbor.
It is the land of the warrior king Genghis Khan, whose empire stretched from Asia to Europe. Come, let's horseback across rugged mountains, vast rolling steppes and the Gobi Desert, the largest in Asia, where the world's first dinosaur fossils were found.
Let's experience the welcome of the nomad in his felt tent, the ger, sip tea with cheese, try herding sheep and cattle, practice some archery, and listen to throat singing, listed as intangible world cultural heritage.
Yes, let's travel to Mongolia.
Mongolia, the fifth largest country in Asia, has a small population of under 3 million. A predominantly nomadic society, Mongolia is currently witnessing rapid urbanization, largely fueled by exports of its abundant mineral reserves. Half the population is concentrated in Ulaanbaatar, the world's coldest capital city.
With a history dating back to the 3rd century BC, Mongolia today is a multi-party parliamentary democracy with a mix of unitary and federal features and a presidential and parliamentary form of governance. Tibetan Buddhism is the dominant religion and Mongolian the national language. The United Nations recognized Mongolia's nuclear weapon-free declaration in 2012.
Incredible vocals there. That was Mongolian throat singing. Civilizational links between India and Mongolia date back to over 2 millennia. Following Mongolia's emergence as a modern nation-state, the two countries have built relations based on this shared historical and cultural legacy, says India's ambassador to Mongolia, Somnath Ghosh.
Relations between Mongolia and India are very close, friendly and warm, and we look forward to developing it further. Mongolia considers India as one of its third neighbor. Many use the term spiritual neighbor, recognizing our deep religious links through Buddhism. 2015 is the 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Mongolia. India was one of the first countries outside communist bloc to recognize Mongolia and also help Mongolia join United Nations organization.
Ambassador Ghosh lists the many high-level visits that have taken place on both sides, which have strengthened these relations further.
Our first Vice President, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, visited Mongolia as early as in 1957. Presidents Sri R. Venkataraman, then Srimati Pratibha Devi Singh Patil, and many of our Vice Presidents visited Mongolia. Some of our speakers also led parliamentary delegations, and we have received in India successive top Mongolian guests. Presidents, Prime Ministers, Speakers. Indira Gandhi visited Mongolia in 1965 as the Minister for Information and Broadcasting. You can well imagine what was going through her mind as she looked on to endless steppes and recalled passages written on Mongolia and Genghis Khan by her famous father in his Letters from a Father to his Daughter. President Sri Pranab Mukherjee also visited Mongolia back in 1994 as Commerce Minister.
The India-Mongolia Joint Committee on Cooperation is an institutional mechanism for enhancing bilateral ties between the two countries. Ambassador Ghosh highlights the several agreements between the two countries that have led to steady progress in the relationship.
Starting from the Indo-Mongol Joint Declaration in 1973, our relations steadily progressed. In 1994, we entered into a treaty of friendly relations and cooperation, which spans political, trade, economic, cultural and technical cooperation. Among prominent agreements, I would mention cooperation on space science and technology, a memorandum on peaceful use of radioactive minerals and nuclear energy, agreement on cooperation in defense, customs. We have a $20 million credit line to Mongolia.
India and Mongolia conduct an annual joint military exercise called No Magic Elephant, and both are also part of the multilateral exercise Khan Quest. Ambassador Ghosh explained that India is actively involved in capacity building in Mongolia.
Today, Mongolia is one of our largest training and education program partner outside SAARC under the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation, ITEC, and Indian Council for Cultural Relations program, ICCR. Every year, over 200 Mongol students come to India under government scholarship, and there are many more who study on their own financing. We are upgrading Rajiv Gandhi College of Arts and Production, one of the premier organizations of vocational training in Ulaanbaatar. We are happy and encouraged that our cooperation is growing.
The agreement on trade and economic cooperation between India and Mongolia provides for most favoured nation status to each other in respect of custom duties and taxes on imports and exports. An investment promotion and protection agreement between the two sides has also been inked. India's Ambassador Somnath Ghosh, speaking on trade and economic relations between the two countries, says,
Mongolia is a small market. It's about 3 million population. It is landlocked and transport-wise a little distant from India. Indian goods and services have to compete with those from neighboring countries. Even then, there is a growing attention from India, particularly on solar energy, IT, mining, entertainment and media, health, education. We are hopeful that there will be far more substantial trade linkages in the time to come. Indians have successfully invested in a number of very popular Indian restaurants and other business. Officially, the total investment is just about 7 million.
India's Ambassador Somnath Ghosh talks of the cultural ties between India and Mongolia.
The Hunas who came up to India before Christ are none other than the Hungnus from the present-day Mongolia. Our links with the great Genghis Khan is well recorded. Even the last of Mughal emperors prided themselves as the descendants of Chagatai, the second son of Genghis. However, our most defining and enduring relations, I would say, is reflected in Buddhism that flowed from India to Mongolia through ages. Along with the nomadism of traditional life, Buddhism is most important phase of Mongolia's life and culture.
The fascinating connect between the two countries can be seen in several aspects of life in both India and Mongolia, says Ambassador Ghosh.
Indian influence in culture, language, traditions have permeated almost all spheres of life. The national symbol of modern Mongolia, Swayambho, came from the Sanskrit word Swayambhu, the self-created. Mongol words like Arya, Adya, Sansar, Dharma, you can easily recognize Sanskrit roots. Indian religious leaders and scholars visited Mongolia from time immemorial. The 18th century gigantic 108-volume Kanjur and 226-volume Tanjur were translated from Indian works. Famous grammar in Mongol language was written following Sanskrit grammar of Panini. Ramayana, Mahabharata, Panchatantra have more than one verse in Mongolia. And in modern times, Tagore is one of the most widely read writers. In India, there are many Mongol signs and signature. Mongol blood mixed into Indian ocean of humanity through ages. Mongol Puri in Delhi took its name from Mongols who once lived in large group. The ruins of Siri Fort that you see today were built against the Mongol raiders.
Modern democratic Mongolia looks up to India as a democratic inspiration and a rising political and economic power, says Ambassador Somnath Ghosh.
Young Mongolians love India, our culture, film, fashions, and they admire our science and technological achievements. Thousands of Mongolians visit India as pilgrims. Many of them travel to Dharmasala to seek blessings of His Holiness Dalai Lama, who they greatly revere as a religious leader. Indians are going to Mongolia, and this friendship will continue and prosper.
That wraps up our visit to Mongolia. But before we go, here's a question for you.
This ICT center, set up by India and connected to all the provinces of Mongolia, is extensively used by the Mongolian leaders and members of parliament. Can you name this center?
Send in your answers to indiajourneys360@gmail.com. The first 3 listeners sending in the correct answer will get a music CD from AIR's archives and a DVD from the Ministry of External Affairs. Congratulations, Narendra Pal Singh from Rohtak, K. Raghavendra Rao from Hyderabad in Telangana, and Praveen from Bangalore for the right answer to our question on Bulgaria.
Georgy Stoikov Rakovsky Sarvodaya Kanya Vidyalaya is the school in Delhi named after Bulgarian poet and revolutionary Georgy Rakovsky, a great friend of India. And Sofia has the Indira Gandhi High School.
Until next time then, goodbye.
And travel safe.